for taking time out of your busy schedule. So first of all, my name is John. Thank you, Patty, for the kind introduction, and also thank you, Charles, for putting together this meeting here today for us. For the past couple of months, we've been asked a lot about SB 17. And there's a lot of confusion and anxiety amongst the community. What is it about? All right, so my goal here today is that hopefully you can come out of this meeting today with some clarity, confidence, and a safe way for you guys to move forward, so that way you can close on your transactions. Okay? So with that being said, so our presentation today is going to be about understanding the new restrictions on foreign buyers. Okay, SB 17 essentially. So hopefully by the end of this presentation, you guys will be able to understand who is being restricted. What properties? Sorry, a little bit. Okay, sorry about that, guys. So at the end of this presentation, my goal is that you guys be able to understand who is being restricted, what properties are affected, what documentation may be needed to protect yourselves and the buyer, how to avoid discrimination. Okay, that's key. With the Fair Housing Act, and how to protect your brokerage from liability. Right? So back now on the law, so in September 1st, 2025, Texas passed the SB 17, which imposes sweeping restrictions on purchase and acquisition of property by foreign individuals, entities, and government ties to China, Russia, North Korea, and Iran. Right? So the law took effect on September 1st, 2025. It's grandfathered in, meaning that any transaction prior to September 1st, 2025 is not applicable. It does not affect. Okay? Any transaction after that, this law is in effect. Right? So what is the purpose of the law? This is what Texas is saying, the government, Texas government. It's saying that it protects critical infrastructure, railroads, airports, seaports, hospitals. It wants to reduce foreign government influence in Texas. Prevent adversarial nations such as China, North Korea, etc. from gaining strategic property, again, farmland, railroads, hospitals. Okay? So that's the stated purpose of Texas SB 17. Okay, so who or what actually is being restricted within this new law? Citizens of the listed countries, China, Russia, North Korea, Iran, who are not U.S. resident. So that's key, who are not U.S. resident. Entities, corporations, partnerships tied to those countries. Any companies based in China are restricted. Right? Or anyone acting on behalf of the foreign government. For example, let's say they're buying a property for the Chinese government. That's being restricted. We cannot do that. Right? And you guys must understand that this is not a ban on all Chinese or Russians, right? It's not a ban, it's not a race-based ban. It's government tied, nationality tied, right? It's foreign government tied. Okay, so this is the part right here. So I think this is why everybody's here today. So the law does not restrict U.S. citizens, right? You're a U.S. citizen, you're fine, you can buy whatever you want. Same thing, a green card holder. If you have a green card holder, you're fine, you can buy properties. Right? Dual citizens. If you're a citizen of the United States, also a citizen of China, you can buy properties here. So what happens if you're a citizen of China and also a citizen of Mexico? Can you buy? No. You have to be a citizen of the United States. Refugees. So for instance, let's say that you apply for protected status overseas in China and you come here to the United States and you have a pending application for, as a refugee, you can buy, right? Same thing with asylum. Let's say you come here on a tourist visa and you have a case where you can apply for asylum here in the United States and have a pending application, you can buy. Okay? Asylum visa. You can.
Let me explain because 昨天因为我有读了这一本，因为我们在这边的人有很多的客人，他们正在申请那个政治庇护，所以我们律师是说，在你这里已经是政治庇护，已经有这个 paperwork 的时候，你可以买。Then you have any supplement I call them if they have a long yeah.
So this is where a lot of confusion comes from, okay? So this is immigration visa holders, K1, which is a fiance visa. I see you have a CR1, IR1, where your spouse sponsor you overseas and you come here and you wait for your green card. Typically it takes about 3 months to arrive. But during that time, you can potentially, so I'll go through how, okay? And same thing with the F1 visa, international student. F1 visa, potentially you can buy as well. So I'll go through that list in a little bit. So as long as, so under SB 17, if you're from China, you may qualify to buy one primary homestead, basically. Okay, well, this is homestead. So what does that entail? Okay, so what are the criteria? For example, say you're an F1 student, okay? As long as it's one single residential property, has to be the primary residence, not an investment, not a rental, not a commercial, okay? No second home. 2, you are lawfully present and residing in the United States, specifically in Texas. You have a valid F1 visa, and it has to be valid. Okay? It has to, it has to be where, let's say you lose your status as an F1, you have to have a valid, lawful presence currently in order to buy the property. And you physically live in Texas. You live in Texas. And it's domicile, meaning that Texas is your fixed address where you intend to come back to when you're absent. You do not have a home in China or in Russia, So you have to, this is your permanent home in Texas. And it cannot be agricultural, non-commercial. Right? As long as you meet those 3 criteria, you can buy, potentially buy. Right? There's an exception within SB 17. And I'll go through there's a case law in a little bit. So what properties are covered in the SB 17? So here's some examples of residential properties, commercial properties, agricultural, industrial, investment, water rights, minerals, quarries, anything under the sun that has to do with real estate, it's all covered within this law right here. Doesn't limit to farmlands or infrastructure. That's what makes it so controversial and so broad. It includes everything, essentially.
我看大家有在看英文的这一份哈，那个我们有做翻译，所以我发的是2份，因为有些专有名词，有的时候我们搞不太清楚，所以呢，您可以参考中文的那一份，你们会记得更清楚。好，谢谢。
So I have some examples of of who is allowed to buy. Okay. So scenario A, buyer is a Chinese-born U.S. citizen. Pretty straightforward. Yes, you can buy, right? Pretty straight. Scenario B, buyer is a Chinese citizen with a green card. Yes, right? You can buy green card. Yes. Scenario C, buyer is a Chinese student, F1 visa. Right? Maybe as long as you what? As long as you meet those three criteria, right? One single residential family home as your primary, no rental, no investment, no second home, right? One home, one house. You are lawfully present in the United States, meaning that you have status here, right? You have to have status. And then physically live in Texas, and it's not a commercial, not a agricultural or commercial, none of that. Then, as an F1 student, you are allowed. So for examples of restricted buyers, so who cannot buy? Buyer is a Chinese national with no U.S. status from overseas. So they're not living in the United States. You cannot buy that. Scenario E, Chinese citizen living in China, sending money to buy a property in the United States or in Texas, particularly in Texas. That's no, right? You cannot. Scenario F, company based in China buying land. Cannot, it's restricted, right? A company based in China cannot buy property as of now with this new regulation. There's an scenario F, I don't know if you can see, but in your PowerPoint presentation, it's an investor who holds a work visa buying on behalf of a Chinese business. You cannot buy on behalf of any restricted entities from overseas, specifically China, Russia, North Korea, and Iran. You cannot buy on behalf of those restricted entities or individuals. You cannot, right? Okay, so for enforcement mechanisms and penalties. So what happens if the transaction does go through? So what are the penalties? So the Texas Attorney General, they are the enforcement agency for this new law. They can investigate and take action against the violation. So essentially, they can take that person to court, divest, meaning force that person to sell the property, right? Force them to sell the property, and the fines can be up to $250,000 or half of the property value, whichever is greater. That's the penalty.
那我补充一个，他有讲到说，for sell the property 不是让 agent 来 sell， 是被 foreclosure， 是让政府来 sell 这个 property。OK， 所以这个等到这个钱，比如说是50万的房子，啊，政府帮你卖了50万，但是你要扣掉这些费用。法庭费用、律师费用加上你的罚款，基本上是拿不到什么钱回来。
And people, there's a known provision. People who knowingly break the law to face criminal charges. I believe it's 6 months to 2 years jail time and a fine of up to $10,000. Let's say that an attorney or a broker agent facilitate, knowing that that person is being restricted, help to facilitate that transaction. Potentially, you fall under this fine or criminal charges against you. And if the property is forced to be sold, the owner gets whatever's left over after pay off the liens, pay off the government charges for the cost of the government to force the sale. So they get what's left over. They don't lose everything. They just don't have a house, that property, but they'll get the money minus whatever the government charges them to enforce the resale or the sale. there's I don't know if you guys are aware, there's a current lawsuit going on. The challenges, basically the constitutional challenges, equal protection claims, Fair Housing Act, Commerce Clause. So one particular case I want to bring to your attention is the Wayne versus Paxton. Right? So Mr. Ping Wayne, he is an F1 student. He's been living in Fort Worth, Texas for approximately 16 years or so. He is domiciled in Texas, meaning that he goes to school there. He has a lease at an apartment that he resides at. Driver's license, Texas, cars registered in Texas. So he lives in Texas. He doesn't have a house or home in China, right? So he wants to buy, he wants to buy one home to live, basically. You're like, I want that right. So in this lawsuit, Wayne is arguing that the law is unconstitutional. SB 17 is unconstitutional because it violates his equal protection rights promised under the United States Constitution because the law restricts. Sorry. Okay, sorry again. So back to the current lawsuit. Again, so now Wayne is arguing that it's unconstitutional. Hey, I want to buy this property, but this law is saying that I can't, based upon my sex, based upon my race, because I'm Chinese, I can't buy this home, even though I'm an F1 student, right? But Texas is saying that, hey, SB 17 does not apply to you, Wayne, Mr. Payne, because you are living in Texas, you're domiciled in Texas, you're not living in China, so this law does not apply to you. So that's what Texas is saying. As long as if you're an F1 student, right, with a visa, non-immigrant visa, you don't have to be a U.S. citizen, you won't have to have a green card. As long as you live here in Texas, you're lawfully here with status, then you can purchase one home, right? As long as it's not commercial, not rental, none of that. Just one home to live in, as a homestead, and you're fine. That's Texas saying that, hey, So then the court, I believe it's the appeals court with the Fifth Circuit, came out with a ruling last week, I believe. They dismissed the case because Wayne doesn't have standing. Wayne is not being affected. He's not hurt by this new law. He can buy. Right? Texas allows him to buy. That's why they come up with a lawsuit. I believe now it's going to go through appeals in the Supreme Court based upon the constitutional merits. But as far as Texas is concerned, he can buy. So that's where we at right now. So what does this lawsuit establish? So basically, Texas is on record saying that not every F1 student is automatically prohibited. You can buy, right, along with those criteria, right? And domicile matters, meaning that where you live matters. Where, your permanent address matters, right? So the argument basically saying, hey, Chinese F1 students, for example, may fall outside. There's an exemption. There's a carve out for any non-immigrant visa holder, such as, for example, an F1 student. They can buy one primary residence. So enforcement really begins with all of us, with you guys, right? As realtors and brokers, maybe be required to ask questions about buyer status. What is their legal status? Do they have status here? Document buyers, immigration, residency, classification. All right, what visa are they under? All right. Confirm their U.S. lawful presence. And then request for them to sign a declaration of eligibility. So what is that? All right, what are they signing here, John? Okay. So to protect you guys, you know, have copies or proof of lawful residency, their green card, essentially, right? Any U.S. visa, U.S. passport, naturalization, to confirm who they are. Because you don't want to be, you know, get fined, knowingly help the transaction, right? And then have a sign a declaration that, hey, I am not buying this property for someone else in China, Russia, North Korea, or whatever, right? That is listed in that restricted list by Texas. And treat all foreign buyers the same. Chinese, Vietnamese, Laos, whatever. All foreign buyers, treat them all the same. You don't want to be involved in a situation where they can sue you for discrimination, right? Under the Fair Housing Act, we cannot discriminate against race, sex, religion, etc. Right? So be sure to protect yourself. Right? Again, so I want to, back to that knowingly standard. If a broker or agent knows a buyer is prohibited and actively helps structure a deal for that transaction, they could be accused of aiding and facilitating that transaction and will be exposed to civil lawsuits, licensing risk, and potential costs as well, fines, litigation costs. So for the procedures, standard, like I said, ask all foreign buyers the same question. All foreign buyers the same questions. Require a standard buyer eligibility form. Like I mentioned earlier, hey, I'm not buying this on behalf of the Chinese government. Have them sign that copy to protect yourself. Do not guess buyer's nationality. Avoid discussing about race. Again, you don't want to be involved in a potential discrimination lawsuit. And then you always ask, a licensed attorney, whoever, myself, or whoever that you know. So for example, what should you say or never say? All right, here's some examples. So in Texas, say that, okay, so a client comes and asks you, right? So you can say, hey, man, in Texas, law restricts purchase by individuals with ties to certain foreign governments to protect you and myself, my brokerage, right, my firm. We need to verify your residency status. This applies to everybody, right? Not just that person, everybody. This is your company standard procedure. So never say, hey, Chinese people can't buy here. Right? That's not true. You look Asian, are you allowed to buy? Again, you don't want to get involved in guessing about race. I don't work with foreign buyers. You can say, hey, my schedule full, and you need citizenship to buy property here, which is not the case, right? Your green card already you can buy. So my suggestion is that you guys update your compliance manuals as a firm. Train new agents on this new regulation, SB 17. Adopt a uniform intake form with new clients. So have that those questions. Say, hey, where they're from. Get copies of their, identifications, passport, whatever, and then we can make that determination, right? Avoid ad hoc questioning about, those questions earlier, information about race and all that stuff. Avoid those questions. You don't want to get involved in a potential, discrimination lawsuit. And always, if you have any unclear issues, you can always come to an attorney or whoever that has that knowledge to verify. So here's an example of a workflow. So step one, identify the foreign buyer. Use neutral wording. For example, will the buyer occupy a property or reside in the U.S.? So with this, we can tell do they live here or do they live in China? If they live in China, then sorry, we can't accept your file. And then after that, you can confirm with their passport, visas, green card, and then step three, have them sign a declaration saying I'm not buying this for for a foreign government that is being restricted by Texas. So if they meet all those criteria, then hey, let's go to close. Proceed forward, right? So red flags. What to watch for? So if a buyer is overseas with no U.S. address, I mean that's a red flag, right? I mean, where are you living? Where's your address? If it's in China, then sorry. Buyer is a foreign business with unclear ownership. Who owns the entity, right? Buyer claims to be purchasing for an investment group overseas. So where is this investment group from? Are they from Mexico or are they from China or North Korea? We have to clarify that. Funds originate from foreign government-linked institutions. If the money is coming from the Chinese government, that's a big no-no, right? So for some frequently asked questions, can realtors ask immigration status? Generally, yes, as long as it's required to comply against this new regulation, SB 17. And it applies to all foreign buyers. Don't exclude it. This is one class. All foreign buyers. Chinese, Vietnamese, Laos, North Korea. Do I need to ask every Asian buyer? No, I mean, some Asians are U.S. citizens as well, right? I mean, you can tell by asking for their IDs. And, when you do the intake process, if they have a foreign passport, then you might ask them to clarify, hey, do we have a valid U.S. visa here? Does it affect loans? I'm sure that some lenders will have extra verification steps for their own purpose. So I'm sure it will affect the certain loans as well. Okay, so key takeaways. So we established that this law does not ban all ethnic Chinese, correct? Certain individuals can buy properties here. This law only applies to buyers with ties to certain governments. Certain governments such as China, Russia, North Korea, Iran. Remember to avoid discrimination. That can be an issue. Always document. Have copies of everything. Make them sign that declaration to protect yourself. As always, consult anyone with knowledge, an attorney, whoever, a broker. And also, the laws may change because it's an ongoing lawsuit. I do know that in Florida, I think they have a similar law, SB 264. Same thing, the court threw out the lawsuit with the same situation because the plaintiff was domiciled or residing in Florida, so they threw that out. And there's a couple more lawsuits going on, so things could change. And if the climate between the U.S. and China improves, then potentially they could revoke this law. So hope for the best. I think that's all I have.
那我们留点时间，请问大家有什么问题可以发言？
So quick question, I have clients, they own like investment properties that they bought before the SB 17. now they're wondering if we can push for the second primary residence. That they rented out before.
Okay, so are they, do you know what, I guess what visa, or are they green card holder, or are they
F1.
F1? Okay. Are they leasing right now, or do they have a home?
It's been leased.
They lease a home. Okay. How long have they been in the United States?
One of them is like a year.
Okay.
One of them is, well, actually, I take that back. One of them is a year with F1. One of them is like H1B.
Okay.
And waiting for it.
Okay. I mean, with that information, I would say it's fine. I would need more, but from that initial information, because number one is that even though they purchased commercial, that was before, prior to September 1st, right?
It's not commercial, it's investment property. Investment property. So like they,
It's an investment property. That's a lease.
primary residence, a single family primary, single family residence, but they rent it out, right?
Okay. Now they want to buy a primary residence.
That is correct.
Okay. Yes, I mean, as long as we can show that, hey, you know, they have a Texas license, to show that it's domiciled here in Texas, we can make a strong case that, hey, that's a clause within that exemption established by the Wayne versus Paxton lawsuit. Case.
So it's fine. Thank you.
How about the END card holder, the prohibited? So you got F1, you can buy from a resident. So the END card holder can buy the from a resident? Like Ephraim and Asher
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so they have a work permit, correct?
Yes.
Okay. What visa did they come under? What visa did they come to the United States with?
Don't know what kind of visa. They only have the END card with us.
Okay. So they have a work permit. How long ago was this work permit?
Yeah, they already here 7 years.
7 years. Okay. 7 years. It might be a case. It might be a refugee or a asylum if they have.